Can you believe it? The first film in the Alien franchise was released in 1979. 43 years ago to produce such a science fiction film. Simply amazing. You know that computer special effects technology was not mature at that time. Alien and its scenes were shot with models and real-life construction methods. In this issue, we will review this classic in the history of science fiction. A spacecraft called the Nostromo, loaded with 20 million tons of ore, is returning to Earth. Due to the long journey, people usually spend a long time in hibernation. On the way, the ship's artificial intelligence detects a mysterious signal and awakens the crew from hibernation. After waking up, the crew dined and discussed the mission's dividends. There are 7 crew members on board: Ripley, Captain Dallas, Executive Officer Kane, Navigator Lambert, Science Officer Ash, and Engineers Parker and Brett. After analyzing the ship's condition, Lambert discovers that they are off course and that their current location is not in the solar system. Faced with the constant distress calls, and given the current situation, according to company regulations, the ship's system can change course, and the crew must go to the rescue. Otherwise, the dividend will not think about it. Although Engineer Parker was reluctant, he agreed for the sake of the bonus. They tracked the source of the signal and soon found the target planet, and the crew then switched to the landing craft and headed for the asteroid. However, an accident occurred, and the asteroid's surface currents damaged the ship. Luckily, the problem is minor, and Parker and Brett can repair it, but it will take some time. The signal source is still 2 kilometers away. Taking advantage of this time, Dallas takes Kane and Lambert out of the ship to investigate. They soon discover an alien ship shaped like a bullhorn. Anyone who has seen Prometheus knows this is the engineer's unique ship. The 3 enter the ship's interior and observe the strange design in the darkness. And when they climb to the control room, they find a giant humanoid creature long dead. He was the ship's pilot, which had turned into a fossil due to its age, and his bones were turned out as if something had burst out of his body. Ripley, inside the ship, managed to decipher the signal. What they have been receiving is not a distress signal but a warning, but they are unable to notify the 3 in time due to a temporary breakdown in communication. In the alien ship, Kane finds a cave and decides to go down and find out what's happening. The bottom of the cave is unusually quiet, and Kane can only hear his breathing and heartbeat. A blue mist covered a large giant egg, and Kane slipped and fell accidentally. The egg in front of him aroused his curiosity, and through the light, he saw some creature wriggling inside the egg. Then, the top of the egg bloomed like a flower, and suddenly the insect leaped up and grabbed his face. The 2 men prepare to take the unconscious Kane back to the ship, as the unidentified creature is still attached to Kane's body. According to the quarantine protocol, the 3 of them must be isolated for 24 hours before entering the inner cabin. Ripley refuses to open the door for them, but Science Officer Ash opens it without saying anything. Inside the infirmary, Dallas and Ash carefully slit open the helmet, and the bug was still attached to Kane's face. He is not dead, and the insects are still feeding him. The question now is how to get this thing off. Ash carefully wrestled the tentacles, but the bug's tail wrapped around Kane's neck more tightly. If this continues, Kane's life will be in danger. The 2 tried to cut off all the tentacles, but just as they did, the bug's blood dripped down and melted the ship's floor. They didn't expect its blood to be stronger than sulfuric acid, which easily penetrated the lower 2 floors of the ship. Seeing the power of the insect's blood, the 2 could only stop the operation. When they returned to the medical bay again, they found Kane still lying quietly there, but the bug was nowhere to be found. The trio carefully searched the entire medical bay, even scarier than the disappearing spider. At that moment, the bug landed on Ripley's shoulder, scaring her so much that she screamed out loud. But luckily the bug was already dead. It was the first time they had seen such a creature, and as a scientific researcher, Ash's occupational hazard kicked in on the spot. After obtaining Dallas' consent, prepare to bring the facehugger back to Earth to study. Just as the repair work has been completed, Dallas orders to leave the asteroid, and the landing module rejoins the mothership. Navigator Lambert reports that it will still take 10 months to return to Earth, and it's a question of how to wake Kane up in that amount of time. While everyone is worried about this, Kane miraculously wakes up and looks normal, as if he had slept. To celebrate Kane's recovery, the 7 people had a big meal. Now, Kane is acting unusually hungry. Suddenly, a horrible scene happened. Kane felt a stirring in his chest. His whole body kept twitching. A few people just put him under control. Then blood splashed. Chest burst open. At that moment, a small alien burst out of his body. The crowd was stunned by this bloody scene. The alien took the opportunity to slip away and disappeared. Kane was given a funeral in space and ejected into an airlock. The most important thing is to find the alien, so they start to search for it. But after looking around, except for a cat, there is still no sign of the alien. Brett followed the cat to the engine room and found a piece of something like the skin on the floor. However, everyone did not expect the alien's growth rate to be so fast that it grew so large in a short period. It was already too late when he noticed the horrible creature hiding in the shadows. Thus, Brett, the engineer, became the second victim. Ripley and Parker heard the screams and immediately arrived, but nothing was found at the scene except a large puddle of blood on the ground. From the blood dripping from above, it was clear that the alien had dragged Brett into the ventilation ducts. The crew gathered urgently to discuss countermeasures. The ventilation duct was connected to the airlock, and there was only one maintenance hole in the middle. We should drive the alien into the airlock to send it into outer space. With the plan in place, Dallas began to assign work. Parker and Lambert seal the repair hole, and Ripley and Ash control the airlock. Dallas enters the tube with a flamethrower to chase away the aliens. He moves slowly through the confined space, following Lambert's instructions. Everything is going well on the surface, but apparently, they have underestimated the intelligence of the alien, and it suddenly appears on the screen. Avoiding the tracker detection, Dallas was attacked when he couldn't escape, and Parker only found the flamethrower in the pipe. There was no blood at the scene, and Dallas and the alien were nowhere to be found. At this point, only 4 survivors remain. The horror of the atmosphere enveloped the ship. Although there was only one alien, it gave people the feeling that it was everywhere. Lambert, the navigator, has an emotional breakdown and suggests that she abandon the ship and take the shuttle to escape. But the space is too small to accommodate 4 people. In Dallas' absence, Ripley becomes the top officer, and she asks Ash for an effective way to deal with the alien line. Since the science officer Ash disobeyed the quarantine rules and let Stormface into the ship, Ripley felt something was wrong with him. To solve her doubts, she interviews the ship's artificial intelligence, and the results are chilling. The company has long been aware of the existence of aliens, and the ship's change, of course, is not a quick decision of the system but the main mission of the voyage. If necessary, they can give up everything, including the crew's lives, to bring back the alien samples. At some point, Ash appeared at her side. Seeing that his secret was discovered, Ash turned to kill. He grabbed Ripley in a violent beating, until she was about to die. Parker rushed up at the critical moment, grabbed a stick, and knocked Ash's head off. No one thought that Ash, who lived with them all day, was a cyborg. Even more terrifying is that he can still fight without his head. Fortunately, Lambert killed him from behind. A few minutes later, Ripley hooked up the wires and reactivated Ash. Ripley interrogates him about how he can destroy the alien, but Ash says they can't possibly succeed, and he believes the alien is a creature infinitely close to perfection. It is extremely adaptable, aggressive, and not swayed by emotion or morality. Parker and the others no longer want to listen to his nonsense, so they disconnect the circuit, and a fire burns him to ashes. At this point, the 3 of them knew very well that they could not let the alien return to Earth. Since they couldn't kill him, Ripley decided to blow up the ship and escape to the space station. But as they collect their belongings, the alien sneaks up on Lambert. She was frozen in fear the first time she saw this horrible creature. Parker saw his teammate in danger and did not hesitate to rush up, but his intentions were already known to the alien, who turned around and grabbed him. Parker told Lambert to run, but he died under the teeth of the alien. However, a distraught Lambert could not escape either, and his screams echoed throughout the ship. When Ripley arrives, all that is left is a blood-stained corpse. With panic and sorrow, Ripley entered the cabin and activated the ship's self-destruct sequence. The system's voice keeps telling her that an explosion will occur in 10 minutes. On his way to the shuttle, Ripley encounters Dallas, who has been captured before. He is still alive and trapped here with Brett, the engineer, and they are being used as tools to incubate the aliens. Dallas is in pain, and it won't be long before a new alien comes out of his chest, so he asks Ripley to give him a piece of his mind. Ripley had no choice but to tearfully put them out of their misery. With only 3 minutes left before the explosion, the aliens are blocking her path. In desperation, she goes back to the way she came and tries to stop the self-destruct sequence, but the controls didn't work and only added 5 minutes to her time. She took the cat all the way, finally at the last minute, to start the space shuttle and fly to a safe distance, and saw the ship explode into cosmic dust. If you think it's all over, you're very wrong. Ash, the biochemist, once said that the alien is an almost perfect creature. Of course, it knew the ship was about to explode, so it quietly hid in the space shuttle. Faced with this deadly creature, Ripley focused on his wits, found a spacesuit in the closet, put it on, grabbed a rope-hook gun, and carefully pressed the switch on the console. The chemical gas gushing out caused discomfort to the alien, and it kept screaming. Ripley opened the airlock. The huge pressure difference instantly sucked the alien out of the ship, but the alien still didn't give up and held onto the door frame for dear life. Ripley fires the rope-hook gun, but unfortunately, the gun is stuck on the threshold. Flying a kite in space, alien's trying to climb back up the ropes to the ship. As he approaches the thrusters, Ripley decisively presses the engine switch. A blast of high-temperature ion fire was released, finally ridding the ship of this nightmarish creature. As the sole survivor of the Nostromo, she takes the cat back into hibernation and drifts to Earth, hoping that someone will find them. This film was released in 1979. Even today, more than 40 years later, it is still relevant. Director Ridley Scott sets the story in a mysterious and unpredictable space, depressing and dark space with a deep soundtrack, coupled with excellent pacing control. The combination of science fiction and horror is so stunning. Although there is only one alien in the film, a powerful sense of oppression and scene construction make people feel everywhere. The classic and great thing about Alien is, it redefined the genre of science fiction horror. It also had a profound impact on subsequent films of the same genre. As for the story of the second film, please pay attention to subscribing to my channel.